There is no place like Kansas for some incredible finishes in NASCAR, and two-time Daytona 500 winning crew chief Drew Blickensderfer takes us in the pits.
NASCAR Daily with Shannon Spake.
Hey, happy Wednesday, everybody. We have made it to the midweek portion as we're getting you ready for the round of 12 this weekend. It's September 25th. Welcome into NASCAR Daily. I'm Shannon Spake. So every Wednesday, we go in the pits, and Noah Gregson's crew chief, Drew Blickensderfer, is going to be here to get us ready for Kansas Speedway. Can't wait to hear what he says he's looking forward to most this weekend. But first, let's remind you of the 12 drivers who are advancing to the round of 12. Kicking off this Sunday at the Kansas Speedway. Take a look. Kyle Larson, 39 to the good right now. Christopher Bell, 24. And Tyler Reddick, 20 to the good. A little bit further down, you've got Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano. Those are the three guys just 7 or less above that cut line. Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez, Alex Bowman, and Chase Briscoe are below the line. What's interesting to me is that every single driver that has transferred to the round of 12, they all have one thing in common, and that's the fact that they're race winners, which shows that absolutely the cream of the crop has risen to the top, or however you say it, the cream has risen to the top, and they are going to be putting on quite a show at Kansas Speedway this weekend, because of course this is a place that we've seen some great finishes over the last couple of years. Let's look back and show you some of these as we're getting you ready for what we might see this weekend. Of course, we had in 2023 the spring race. It carried over to the off the track, right, between these two, between Ross Chastain and Noah Gragson. This, of course, got a lot of traction. We talked about it a lot, but tempers will flare. And that was the spring race. In that same race, it was Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson racing for the lead. Kyle had led 85 laps in this race. Denny Hamlin had led 34 by the time the checkered flag flew. And of course, it was Denny Hamlin who would go on to get the victory. Yes, just like that. His 4th win at Kansas. Really great. How about 2022? That was when 23XI showed up and said, we are here and Kansas is our playground. Kurt Busch getting his very last victory, his career victory. Of course, the former champion. That was the first win for the Jordan brand as well. Look at how excited he is inside that race car. Later that season, it would be teammate Bubba Wallace that would get the victory, his 2nd career win. I loved watching this victory. I loved watching Bubba go to victory lane. We all want to see Bubba get to victory lane. It would be fun to see him do it this weekend, especially if Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace are racing for the win. And then, of course, most recently, we had the spring race. It was the closest finish ever. Take a look at these two guys. Kyle Larson just in front. It was coming down to the wire. Take a listen to how it went down. Mike Joy and those guys inside the booth making this call, which was so awesome.
Well, let's have a look at the video.
Uh-oh, boys.
Buescher is ahead. Larson is coming. It's like the Kentucky Derby.
Oh,
it's
my
that
God.
close. It's Larson.
I think I heard like an oh my wow. Kyle Larson, of course, coming off that dominant performance at Bristol 1 week ago. We talked to Caitlin Larson yesterday, which was such a great time to chat with her. So we'll see. We'll see how things play out this week. But do remember that Toyota drivers have won 4 of the last 5 Kansas races, including 3 by 23XI. So maybe a little foreshadowing there. Pit road at Kansas. Let's take a look at some of the specifics on this pit road. 40 feet wide, pit road speed 45. You got 29 feet from pit stall 1 to the camera. We've seen some penalties there since 2022, 29 speeding penalties, equipment over the wall, and tire violations. And of course, we know that there's been so many issues with playoff drivers so far this season. So we'll see if that comes into play and determines how the end of this race and potentially the round of 12 starts to fall out. Time now to go in the pits with my good friend, Drew Blickensderfer. I always like to introduce him the proper way. 2-time Daytona 500 winning crew chief. I always got to get that in for you, Drew. How's it going? Haven't seen you in a while, man.
It's been a while. Yeah, we're doing good. We're starting to run pretty well here at Stewart Haas, and that makes it a lot more fun. So yeah, we're trying to help Chase move along.
Yeah, do you guys feel the surge with Chase racing for a championship right now?
We do. I think the Darlington win was a little bit of a surprise for all of us. I think we thought we were getting better race cars, but when he won at Darlington, that just kind of changed the mindset around here. And people, because of the situation at Stewart-Haas, started to maybe pick their head up a little higher and work a little harder and get things focused on this year versus of what they're going to do next year.
That's awesome. Okay, when I say Kansas, from a crew chief perspective, what do you think?
I think it's awesome. I think 5 years ago, I would have said, oh, Kansas, another boring mile and a half. But the next gen car at mile and a half, it's so hard to drive. And Kansas provides an opportunity to run the bottom, to run against the wall. It takes everything at Kansas. So I think as a crew chief, going to mile and a half is fun now. I think setup wise, I think the racing that these guys do at mile and a half is far superior to what we did with the previous car. So going to Kansas, it seems fairly basic. It's smooth. There's multiple lanes to run on. But like you talked about, Shannon, there's a lot of chaos that goes there, especially in the fall race. When you put Kansas in the playoffs, when you're 4 or 5 wide going on a restart coming off turn 2, we've seen a lot of people get in trouble. It's typically the fast guys are going to run towards the front, but we've seen a lot of issues there as well.
I love that you said issues. It's like almost like we've worked together for years and years. You knew where I was going to go because that's the key. Are you surprised at how many playoff drivers have had issues so far?
I am. I think we looked at the schedule when it came out last offseason and said, oh, man, that first round of playoffs is going to be tough because there's so many unknowns going in there. Watkins Glen was a fairly basic road course in the past. They brought a different tire there. Bristol, although it's a short track and anything can happen, we knew the guys that could run well there. In the spring, we had huge tire fall off, which was going to be chaotic. And it's kind of absurd to think Bristol was the calmest of the playoff races in the first round. I think we're thinking Kansas is going to be a calm one in the second round because of Talladega and the Roval. But like we just talked about, Kansas can provide an opportunity for a lot of guys to get caught up in stuff. So they're going to have to be on their toes for sure.
Toyota has really taken an opportunity at Kansas as of late, right? They've won 4 of the last 5, but even more than that, I was looking at Racing Resources this morning, and it's just Toyota over the last 10 races. Is that just a fluke kind of thing, or have they particularly figured something out?
Well, I think it's a combination. I think when I worked at Roush Fenway Racing a long time ago with Mark Martin, our mile and a half program was great. And that was because Mark Martin led that. And when you have a driver like Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex, and before that, Carl Edwards and Matt Kenseth, and everybody in that Toyota camp, they could lead the charge on what makes a good mile and a half car. So then that's trickled down to having good drivers like Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace and Christopher Bell and everybody in that Toyota camp runs well there. And that's led them to a setup and things they're doing to their race cars that make them superior there. And I think obviously the Toyota product has been good all year. I was looking at the playoff standings when you showed it up there, and it's typical. The last two years, and it's happening now. Ford comes on at the end of the season. And then you got to throw in there William Byron and Kyle Larson. And although Toyota has a stronghold right now at Kansas, I think they're going to have tougher competition this time. We've seen it play out in the past, and I think it makes those odds get a lot closer at Kansas this time than maybe the previous couple times.
Okay, so before I let you go, obviously Chase Briscoe, Noah Gragson, right? You're gonna side with the Ford camp. You're gonna side with Stewart-Haas Racing. But outside of that, if there was one driver that you'll be looking at the scoring pile and you'll be looking at timing and scoring to see where they're running, who would that be?
Kyle Larson, last week's winner. He's so good at Kansas. I think out of the playoffs, the surprise guy will be Ross Chastain. He has run really well there the last couple of years. We've paid attention to that in our prep work for Kansas. I think the one had an off season, but Ross somehow comes out at Kansas really well. He was in the spring. But Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin, if they're not the odds-on favorite, I don't know what you're looking at, because those guys are really, really good. They're superior both in the race car and their teams on and off pit road. They're the best out there. So I would say in the playoffs, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin. Wild card outside of the playoffs, I'm looking at Ross Chastain.
And the gloves will be off for Ross Chastain.
We'll try and help Noah. You got to throw the first punch, Noah. Come on. We got to work on that.
I had to mention it. You're awesome. Thanks, Drew. Appreciate your time. We'll catch up with you soon. Good luck this weekend. Oh, yes, the odds get closer. Speaking of odds, Erica Davis will be here tomorrow. Every single Thursday, we get you all your betting and gambling needs, get you ready for Kansas this weekend. Always love catching up with Drew. I just think he's got great insight, and it will certainly be fun to see if some of the stuff that he predicted plays out this weekend. So once again, Erica Davis tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed going in the pits today with Drew Blickensderfer. Happy Wednesday. Everyone enjoy your day. We'll see you tomorrow.
NASCAR Daily with Shannon Spake.